Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're exploring something deeply personal, but honestly, incredibly powerful. We're looking at an analysis of conflict, dignity, and really the profound art of de-escalation. We're unpacking a reflection written by D.R.DIAZ. He's an educator and a father who found himself in this sudden, super tense situation that ended up testing absolutely everything he knew about protecting his peace. And I want to be clear, this isn't just a story about a frustrating afternoon. It's a literal masterclass in the martial arts philosophy of avoidance. We're going to break down exactly how to transform a totally emotional, instinctive reaction into a tactical, dignified protocol. So, let's dive right into it. The author drops this really vulnerable opening confession right off the bat, stating plainly, "I don't like public pools." And that immediately plunges us right into the underlying tension of his narrative. He actually clarifies that it's not because he can't swim or, because he doesn't want his kids to be comfortable and fearless in the water. No, it's entirely because of the atmosphere. And this sets the stage perfectly, because think about it. The environment we're in heavily dictates the energy we have to expend just to exist within it. It's all about the sharp contrast in these environments. On one hand, you have Diaz's ideal aquatic setting. Think places like Lake Superior or the open ocean. He describes these as wide, sacred, and pure. They're spaces where nobody has to feel like an intrusion, where you can just be completely unbothered. But then, you've got the gritty reality of the public pool. Cramped bodies, charged air, hard glances. It's this turbulent environment where, as a Latino man, he notes that he's actually had to learn to read the room over a lifetime. He maintains this quiet awareness and really sharp peripheral vision in spaces that, frankly, aren't always designed with him in mind. Despite all that underlying tension, he brings his family anyway. And the setup here paints a picture I think we can all relate to. It's just a simple Sunday. It's a dad in the shallow end of a crowded pool with his 8-year-old daughter and 3 toddlers. They're really just trying to enjoy a totally normal family day amidst this chaotic energy of teenagers cannonballing off diving boards and adults standing around with their arms crossed. His focus is entirely on keeping his own energy calm and keeping his eyes on his kids, trusting that this is just going to be another fun weekend afternoon. But then, out of nowhere, the spark of conflict ignites. The calm is totally shattered when a boy nearby throws a ball, and we're talking hard, not in a playful way, and it hits Diaz's 8-year-old daughter smack in the face. Now that is a moment that would literally make any parent's heart skip a beat. But look at how his daughter reacts. Being naturally generous and kind, she just assumes it was an accident. In this beautiful display of innocence, she just picks the ball up and tries to pass it back to him. The boy, however, just lets the ball drop. He taunts her. And when she ignores him, he escalates with an unprovoked, incredibly ugly insult. I mean, let that sink in for a second. Imagine hearing someone say that to your 8-year-old daughter. The sheer shock of that level of disrespect in a public space, especially where lifeguards and the boy's own parents say absolutely nothing, is just palpable. The disrespect is literally hanging thick in the air, and it feels like it demands a reaction. Which brings us to a really critical question we all need to reflect on. When disrespect goes unchecked, what is the cost? Think about your own natural instincts in a moment exactly like that. The instinct is usually to step up, to defend, right? To escalate. Diaz actually acknowledges his own roots here. Growing up in Milwaukee, he notes he has seen people get seriously hurt for a lot less. He knows exactly how quickly unchecked disrespect can ignite into these long-lasting violent feuds that follow families around for years. But on the flip side, he also deeply understands the devastating cost of overcorrecting. So the absolutely crucial point here is how he manages that primal instinct. He relies on a martial arts framework, essentially turning a highly emotional reaction into a strict tactical protocol. The hierarchy of response is crystal clear. Step 1, before a block, before a strike, is to avoid. If you absolutely cannot avoid the conflict, you move to step 2, which is de-escalate. And if de-escalation completely fails, you move to step 3, exit. And I want to emphasize, this framework isn't about running away, not at all. It's about systematically managing a threat to create true strength and maintain your own control. So implementing step 2, the father turns to the boy and asks this incredibly quiet, incredibly controlled question. Can you be more respectful? Think about the immense self-control required to ask just that in this heated moment. Diaz notes that he deliberately phrased it not as a demand, like you need to be, or a threat, like you better, but as a genuine invitation for resolution. He approached it almost like a teacher asking his student a question they already know the answer to. He kept his energy completely level to avoid giving this kid any fuel whatsoever to escalate the situation. Now we arrive at the crossroads, resolution or exit. The boy looks away,
He doesn't even answer the father. A few moments later, the daughter mentions the boy is now making faces and taunting her from all the way across the pool. The father sees it, makes a mental note, and actively chooses to let it go. His attempt at de-escalation and resolution was flat out rejected by the boy. So, following his martial arts protocol flawlessly, the father chooses not to engage any further. He implements the final step, the exit. He agrees immediately when his youngest says they want to leave.
And this is what builds into a massive paradigm shift. Consider the old mentality for a second. That street-level instinct where backing down inherently looks like losing. It feels like you're surrendering your pride, right? But contrast that with the new wisdom. Choosing peace, staying perfectly calm, speaking with your dignity fully intact, and actively deciding to protect what matters by simply exiting, that is genuine strength. It takes vastly more power to control your ego and walk away than it ever does to just lash out. As they pack up their stuff, Diaz imparts this incredibly powerful, lifelong lesson to ensure she understands exactly what just went down. He tells her, if a flower doesn't bloom, you don't fix the flower, you change the soil. I absolutely love that. He makes it unequivocally clear to his daughter that they fully belong in that space, but that they are actively choosing to leave it. They weren't chased out by some bully, they simply realized the soil had turned toxic. And toxic places just do not deserve their energy. And this brilliantly translates into some highly actionable advice for all of us when navigating turbulent environments. If you want to cultivate your own dignity, here is the playbook. First, don't invest in toxicity. Just don't do it. Second, never match their chaotic energy with your own. Third, take a beat to figure out what's actually happening around you. Fourth, protect yourself. And finally, move. Literally move away from the negative space. As he tells his daughter, this isn't weakness, it is profound wisdom. It's a wisdom that took him decades and a lot of hard lessons to actually acquire.
The broader legacy of this moment is really what makes this entire reflection so vital. Diaz notes that he didn't write this just for his daughter, although she is learning that she has the ultimate power to remain whole even when the world says ugly things right to her face. He wrote it for parents of color who constantly have to calculate the risk of speaking up in public spaces. And he wrote it for absolutely anyone who is ever forced to choose between their pride and their peace. By choosing not to fight, he didn't lose a single thing at that pool. Instead, he taught the next generation exactly how to win the internal battle.
Which brings us right back to the core metaphor defining this entire philosophy, still waters. Now, still waters do not mean the absence of conflict. Look, conflict is inevitable. It's going to find us all eventually. Still waters represent the ability to move through that conflict without letting it break what is inside of you. Diaz proudly reflects that his 8-year-old daughter perfectly embodied these still waters that day. She absorbed the hit, she stayed perfectly calm, and she just swam away from what was no longer serving her. So we're going to wrap up this explainer with a question for you to carry forward when the waters around you turn toxic, and it could be at a public pool, in a corporate meeting room, or even just scrolling online. How will you protect your peace? Are you going to match that chaotic energy and escalate, or will you embrace the martial arts philosophy of avoidance? Remember, you always have the power to stay calm, protect your dignity, and simply change the soil.